Hey everyone, Diavolo here, and in today's video, we're going to be going over what I consider to be the saddest death in all of Tokyo Revengers. I honestly never expected something this traumatizing to actually happen, especially after Emma's death back in the Tenjiku arc. This here is the death of the vice captain of the Tokyo Manji gang, Ken Ryoguchi, better known as everyone's favorite character, Draken. But if you'd like to reminisce and remember Draken along with all of the past fallen Tokyo Revengers characters long after their deaths, then be sure to check out Otaku Lamps, today's video sponsor and your source for officially licensed anime LEDs. Partnered with Crunchyroll, Funimation, and over 20 anime studios, Otaku Lamps makes cool official merch that you know comes straight from the source. They even work directly with Kodansha and the anime studios for Tokyo Revengers. Each lamp can change between 16 colors using the included remote and has a bunch of other features as well. Imagine having Mikey, Draken, or the entire gang lit up on your desk or bookshelf right next to your manga collection. They even have more characters and designs dropping with the upcoming weeks, like Berserk, so make sure to check out Otaku Lamps for the upcoming holidays. You can only get these at otakulamps.com, so make sure to use code Diavolo and get 10% off with your order as well. The link I'll leave down in the description for you guys. Also, just want to thank them for sponsoring this video. But anyway, enough of that, let's get into the most heart-wrenching death so far in an already heartbreaking story. So I think the best place to start this is just before the commotion all goes down at the amusement park. After a long day out with Senju and a quickly approaching night, just before going to sleep, Takemichi is suddenly disturbed by the sound of a rock tapping on his window. After walking over to the window, Takemichi finds Senju standing outside in her Brahmin uniform, asking if Takemichi wanted to go out on a date with her. After Takemichi accepts, they both head off and arrive at an amusement park in which Senju states that she's been wanting to come here for a while as she hasn't been here since the 6th grade. After they ride a bunch of different rides around the amusement park, they make their way to the roller coaster. As they are waiting for their ride to start, Senju tells Takemichi that both him and Draken will be the ones to handle the Kanto Majin gang during the Battle of the Three Deities on the 14th of July, while she and Takomi will take care of the Rokuhara Tandai. Before Takemichi can even reply, Senju states that she can even handle all of this herself, and that once Mikey and South are defeated, she wants to be number one. As the ride takes off and Takemichi screams in fear, Senju notes that Takomi has changed. He's not the same as he used to be, as his goals for the growth of Brahmin have changed. He wants the gang to become bigger, but Senju states that if more people get involved in the gang, some of them will be unsatisfiable and it will result in conflict. She says that instead of growing right now, firstly, they need to defeat the opposing gangs in the upcoming battle. After the ride ends and they get off, Senju notices people writing and hanging tanzaku on bamboo trees. While singing, Senju tells Takemichi that they are both going to make a wish. After writing their wishes, Senju laughs at him and tells Takemichi that his wish of defeating Mikey-kun is boring. Takemichi nervously tells her to be quiet as he was just writing his current goals. Senju then writes her wish and shows Takemichi. While she's laughing, it is revealed that her wish is to protect Takemichi. Standing there stunned, Takemichi thinks to himself that she's such a straight up person. And as he thinks this, Senju says with a smile on her face that she's never done anything like this before and asks Takemichi if they can become friends. Of course, Takemichi instantly replies with yes and reaches out his hand to shake hers, telling her that if anything happens to her as well, he will definitely protect her. Suddenly, as their hands connect, Takemichi's mind flashes and he begins to see images of a wounded Senju lying on the ground. While screaming out her name and thinking to himself that again he's seeing these random visions, Senju mutters 4 words: "I've fulfilled my promise." Again, all of a sudden, just as quickly as they came, his visions disappeared, but Takemichi is left stumped, thinking about an amusement park and the fact that this time his visions were much clearer than previously. Just as Senju notes that the rain has started, it flashes away from the duo and instead we see Draken standing outside of the D&D motor shop, noting the change in weather. Just as it begins to pour down with rain, Inupai pulls up beside Draken, who tells him that as they speak, the guys from the Rokuhara Tandai are heading towards Takemichi. Again, we skip back over to Takemichi, who's just realised that the place Senju suffers a possibly life-altering wound is here at the amusement park. As Senju runs away, pulling up her hoodie to stop the rain, Takemichi confirms to himself that indeed it is not the distant future, but today this moment happens. In a cafe, Senju and Takemichi sit and decide to wait out the rain. While there, Senju tells Takemichi that she has to go to the bathroom and then quickly heads off to do so. Meanwhile, Takemichi is lost in his thoughts, pondering what to do in case of his future visions. He recalls his vision featuring Senju bleeding from the head and dying. Remembering that Senju is in the restroom, he rushes off to find her, scolding himself for leaving her alone. Just as he reaches the restroom, Takemichi sees the Tanzaku with Senju's promise to protect him. As he comes to a sudden realization, a group of hooded, masked men approach him. Much to Takemichi's surprise, they are actually targeting him. One of the men asks another if he is sure about his actions. In response, the other man reassures him, reminding him that their actions will help them improve their status. Yet another man protests, stating that they have already consulted South. However, the man pulls out a gun, responding that South will understand his actions. As he stares at the barrel of the gun, Takemichi pieces together the meaning of his vision. Senju will die trying to protect him. Suddenly, behind him, Senju rushes up, but Takemichi cautions her to stay back. As the man clutches the gun, warning Takemichi not to move, Senju screams for him to stop, but Takemichi runs towards Senju, telling her not to come near him. As he tackles her to the ground, the man fires the gun, with Takemichi lying atop Senju. The gunman thinks he successfully killed Takemichi and chuckles to himself. However, Takemichi rises, unscathed. As Senju looks up at him in surprise, Takemichi asks if she is alright, telling her that he cannot let her die. The man curses, wondering how he missed. Takemichi braces for the bullet that is about to fire, but is surprised when the gun clatters onto the ground. Turning, he sees Draken, who has just knocked out the man holding the gun. As Draken ensures Takemichi's safety, Takemichi stammers in relief and surprise. While the commotion at the amusement park is taking place, Mikey overlooks the city. Behind him, Coco asks what the matter is. Mikey replies that it is raining and he has a bad feeling about the night. Meanwhile, the noise of the gunshot scares away the crowd. At the sight of Draken, the men from the Rokuhara Tandai flee in absolute terror. Still shocked at Draken's sudden arrival, Takemichi thanks him for saving him. As he kicks away the gun, Draken remarks on the brazen dangerousness of Takemichi's attackers. After Takemichi confirms that Senju is unharmed, Takemichi asks why Draken showed up, and Draken explains that Inyupe heard that the Rokuhara Tandai was targeting Takemichi. As Takemichi remarks surprise at his targeting by the Rokuhara, Draken smiles, reminding him of his revered status in the delinquent world. Growing serious, Draken adds that the conflict between the three deities may not be as simple as a delinquent conflict. He explains that the gangs are involved with unethical businesses which invest in the gangs. After Takemichi wonders aloud about the future, Draken eerily speculates that Mikey predicted this. Takemichi confides in Draken, telling him that he can foresee future events. He explains his vision of Senju dying and begins to thank Draken for helping him change the future events. Smiling, Draken says that he is glad. Suddenly, Senju reminds them that they need to leave the premises as they may get in trouble if found by more Rokuhara members or the police. As Takemichi runs behind Senju, he notices Draken is still standing, not moving with his back turned away from him. Abruptly, Draken tells Takemichi to relay a message to Mikey. He tells him, "Don't cause too much trouble." Confused, Takemichi tells Draken to tell Mikey himself. But before Takemichi can finish his sentence, Draken collapses and falls to the ground, having sustained 3 gunshot wounds. He says he has done all that he can do. When Draken comes to, he notes his inability to hear, move, or see clearly, finding a frantic Takemichi over him. Takemichi informs Draken that he has called an ambulance and Senju is looking for help. He tries reassuring Draken with his smile, but Draken notices Takemichi's clenched fist. Aloud, Draken realizes he is dying. Upon hearing Draken say that he realizes he is dying, Takemichi tears up. He insists that he will be fine by tomorrow, asking for Draken's affirmation and reassurance. However, Draken stares into the raining sky as he prepares himself for the impending death. With a faint grin, Draken tells Takemichi not to blame himself. He explains his decisions to protect Takemichi was one of his own and not a consequence of Takemichi's time leap, because Takemichi had already saved his life. Draken says that in return he was happy to sacrifice his. After reassuring Takemichi understands this, Draken reminisces on his elementary school days, where he would lose many fights against older kids, much to the surprise of Takemichi. Following his defeat, Draken would crawl on the ground and look up towards the sky. Similar to his current state, looking into the sky grounded him and provided peace. Wiping his tears, Takemichi says that he understands that feeling. However, Draken adds that Mikey has never seen the sky, as Mikey has never been defeated, noting that is a shame. With his words growing more and more strained, Draken explains his admiration of Mikey's strength as he carried and endured all of his hardships for his friends and all of Toman. Choking on his blood, Draken says that he wishes he could help Mikey even more, and asks Takemichi to do one more favor, one that he considers lame. With tears in his eyes, Draken asks Takemichi to take care of Mikey, and Takemichi promises to do so. After the ambulance arrives, the paramedics begin to load Draken into the ambulance. While this is happening, Draken starts to think back to January 1st, 2005, before Takemichi had joined the group. During this flashback, Toman's leaders all ride towards the beach to celebrate the new year. Draken asks Baji and the rest of the main Toman crew about their respective gang conflicts, both of which ended in Toman's victory. Meanwhile, Payan, Parchin, Hakai, and Mitsuya attribute Toman's success to Mikey's leadership. Draken agrees, adding that Mikey, who is riding ahead of him, is the face of Toman. Watching Mikey, Mitsuya remarks that without Mikey's presence, it feels lonely. Interrupting their thoughts, Mikey urges them to ride faster as they may miss the sunrise. The entire group arrives at the beach at 4 AM, where they marvel at the beautiful starry sky. Due to the cold weather, Baji orders Shifuyu and Hakai to shoot to the shop and buy something to warm the group up. In the meantime, Draken starts running around on the beach to warm up, joined by Mitsuya, Baji, Parchin, Payan, and Smiley. While running around, they joke about the 5th Division's leader's absence and how Mucho did not want to bring his car out and that he does not ride a bike because of his age. By the time Hakai and Shifuyu return from the store, the sky has brightened and the captains have warmed up and tired out from the run. Draken spots Mikey at the end of the pier, watching the sunrise. As Draken approaches Mikey's spot, the other members stare in awe at the beautiful sky as the sun begins to break through the dark, cold night. Mikey places his palm above the sun and clenches it. Grasping the sun, he tells Draken to hold on to the world. Grinning, Draken agrees that this year they will conquer the whole country. As he remembers that morning, Draken breaks down and weeps, remarking that his final memories are with all of his best friends and the previous members of Toman. As he cries, lying on the concrete in the cold rain, he tells Emma that he is on his way, visualizing his spirit as it leaves his body to reunite with his one and only true love, Emma. Flashing away from the amusement park, Rokuhara Tandai's top executives watch as South beats the life out of the perpetrators of Draken's death. Although South beats the men for their extreme actions, he also grins, adding that they did extremely well. Back at the park, Senju watches as Takemichi stares off into the distance in shock, as if he has lost his entire will for everything he has done so far. Takemichi recalls the moments prior, as he frantically asks the paramedic of Draken's condition. They then give him the cold news that Draken has truly passed away and they are no longer able to resuscitate him. Senju screams out his name several times, but to no gain, as she fails to rouse him out of his catatonic state, confirming the collapse of Toman's most beloved member. Just then, Akashi arrives behind them. After confirming that the Rokuhara Tandai perpetrated Draken's death, he swears revenge, ordering Benkai to gather the rest of Brahmin. Hearing Akashi's plans, Senju is shocked, saying that they cannot act today. She and her brother begin arguing about the best course of action, with Hakai angrily declaring that their goals have changed from being number one to a complete bloodbath. Senju angrily screams back at him, trying to stand her ground. All the while, Takemichi remains in his state, shaken to the core, with a look we've never seen from him before, the look of pure grief. All of a sudden, we hear footsteps and the arrival of Tyranno, and with South's sudden ridicule of Draken's death, this somewhat snaps Takemichi out of his distraught state. After taunting Draken's death some more, he and Akashi throw words at each other and begin to prepare their gangs to battle. Suddenly, the distinct sound of a motorcycle interrupts them both. Turning his head, Akashi notices the sound of Shinichiro's CBT 250T. And to the absolute shock of everyone in attendance, a somber Mikey arrives alone at the scene. Quietly, a stunned Takemichi shakily utters his estranged friend's name. Well, sadly, that brings us to the end of Draken's life. Honestly, as I said at the beginning of the video, I really never saw this coming. It was something that I actually felt like was impossible, as Draken has already died countless times throughout the past, and it seemed like Takemichi had solidified his safety through his actions. Sadly, we all had the blanket pulled over our eyes and failed to see the small signs that pointed towards Draken's demise earlier on, like this placement on volume 4 of the manga, which at face value may seem harmless, but when you look into Japanese superstition and the history, you realize that the number 4 in Japanese is one of the 6 unlucky numbers. Traditionally, number 4 is unlucky because it is sometimes pronounced as shi, which is the word for death in Japanese. Or something else we missed again on chapter 204, where Draken is featured alongside Shinichiro, Baji, and Emma in a panel just before Mikey jumps to what he thought was his death. These small things may seem silly to speculate at the time, but as we can see here, maybe this was all actually predetermined and had been for a while. But anyway, I do hope you all enjoyed the video, as I really enjoyed making this video on Draken, as he is one of my top 3 Tokyo Revengers characters, and it was heartbreaking to see him go. So if you have enjoyed the video and want to keep up to date with the latest Tokyo Revengers content and just more anime content in general, then make sure you hit that subscribe button and also be sure to leave a like on the video, as it really helps out with the algorithm and pushes my stuff to a bunch of new amazing people. Also, I just want to thank Otaku Lamps again for sponsoring this video, and remember to use code Diavolo for 10% off at the checkout. But anyway, for now it's been your professional degenerate Diavolo, and I'll see you all in a bit. Bye.